Josh.
And I'm Amber.
And today, we're going to give you a brief introduction into the topic of extreme weather in Nova Scotia.
But before we get into that, we're going to take a look at some weather around the globe.
Fasten your seatbelt, Nova Scotia.
Antarctica is the coldest, highest, windiest, and driest continent in the world. The average summer temperature in the Antarctic is minus 6.6 degrees Celsius. The average winter temperature, minus 34 degrees Celsius. In 1983, the coldest temperature ever recorded on Earth was found in the Antarctic, a whopping minus 89.2 degrees Celsius. Not surprisingly, 98% of Antarctica's landmass is covered in ice.
Weather in Australia is varied across different parts of the country, with the climate being mainly arid to semi-arid. Australia receives quite a few dust storms because of the local wind variations. Although their seasons are less pronounced, the summer and winter actually occur at opposite times of the year from Canada. The average summer temperature is about 23 degrees Celsius, while their average winter temperature is about 15 degrees Celsius.
How does the weather of Canada compare to that of Antarctica and Australia? Why might we see these differences?
If we take a look at Canada, we have 4 distinct seasons, and each season has its own set of weather trends.
How does our weather change throughout the seasons? How will these changes affect Nova Scotian communities?
In addition to the 4 distinct seasons Nova Scotia experiences on its trip around the sun, we also have another factor greatly affecting our weather. That is, the fact that Nova Scotia is a peninsula.
A peninsula is when you have a landmass that is almost completely surrounded by water, such as Nova Scotia.
Interesting. But what does the water do to the climate?
Now in Nova Scotia, sometimes the weather ends up breaking trend and we end up with extreme weather. What kinds of different extreme weather might you see around your area?
Also, think about how extreme weather might affect you and your family as Nova Scotians. What can you do to prepare? And welcome back to Weather Watchers with Jimmy Jones. I'm your host, Jimmy Jones, and today we have a very special guest, Gail Winter, here to talk to us about meteorology. So Gail, what types of weather do we have that you'd say would qualify as extreme here in Nova Scotia?
Well, Jimmy, around here we have a whole bunch of different kinds of weather. We get thunderstorms, we get tropical storms, we get tornadoes, and we get hurricanes, we get huge winter storms, and all sorts of fun things in between.
Now, I could be mistaken, but I thought you said tornadoes. I didn't know we got tornadoes here in Nova Scotia.
Well, Jimmy, it is true. We do get tornadoes here. Not very often, but they do happen sometimes. There are yearly reportings as well of what we call water spouts. Now, water spouts are basically when you have a little tornado that happens over a body of water.
Thunderstorms. They're pretty neat. Haven't seen them lately though. Why is that?
Well, the weather, as we know, is kind of changing a little bit, but you need specific ingredients for these thunderstorms to happen, and they can happen anywhere, but you need these ingredients. And what that basically is you're going to have a warm, moist air front, and you're going to have a cold, dry front. These fronts, they're just basically chunks of air. It's a big ball of air. So we have these two fronts, and you're going to have these fronts colliding, and when they collide, you get a perfect recipe for a thunderstorm.
Fascinating. We'll be right back after a couple messages from our sponsors.
Yummy.
Hi, and welcome back to Weather Watchers. If you're just joining us, we're interviewing local meteorologist Gail Winters. Now, Gail, a friend of mine once told me, we can't get tropical storms in Nova Scotia. We're not even in the tropics. Come on, obviously he doesn't host a show on weather.
Well, I'm going to say that your friend was wrong. We do get tropical storms. The reason that throws people off, though, is because of the word tropical. A lot of people think that we can't get them because, well, it's tropical. We're not in the tropics. Well, the reason that they're named tropical storms is because that's where they do form. They form in the tropics, but then they travel up the coast. And what ends up happening is they tend to dissipate once they get up here in the colder waters, known as the North Atlantic.
Fascinating. Now, tropical storms, are they kind of like the little brothers of hurricanes, or are they totally different entities?
No, you're right. I guess you could kind of look at it like that, as the little brothers of hurricanes, because hurricanes are going to be a lot more intense. They get a lot more wind associated with them and a lot more rain. But they are related to tropical storms.
Now, Hurricane Juan. Let's talk tragedy for a minute, folks. This happened, September 2003? I'm not over it. I don't know if you are. But, what about this winter? We've almost got winter coming. Should we fear this happening in our winter months?
Now, Hurricane Juan was a big, huge hurricane that happened in September, but the timing, just not right in the winter time. What happens in the winter? Well, it's too cold. In order for hurricanes to actually start forming, the water needs to be really, really warm, which is why they form in the tropics. But once they get up here, the water just gets too cold in the winter time, and, well, they can't form.
Well, there's a bit of relief at least. That's all the time we have today, folks. I'd like to thank our guests, Dr. Winter, for coming in, and hopefully we'll see you soon on Weather Watchers.
Thanks.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You can let go of my hand.
You too, Nova Scotia. Have a great night, too. Today we've taken some time to talk about extreme weather in Nova Scotia. Now, focusing more specifically on a rather historic storm, what was it that made Hurricane Juan so powerful? Take a minute to think about it. How would it have affected the people in Halifax and the surrounding area?
If you were to form an emergency watch team, how might your team predict, prepare for, and help with relief of future severe weather in Nova Scotia?
Yummy.